For weeks, we've been telling you about the crisis in Sri Lanka, the worst ever financial crisis, then the political crisis, then the protests. Now, this is a tiny island of 65,000 square kilometers, population 2.2 crores, slightly more than that of Delhi. Why should an endless protest in this country make our top story day after day? Because it's a spectacular story of democracy and how people suffer when they vote inefficient leaders, of dictatorship and how too much power corrupts, and of debt, how friendship with China leaves you in a mess. In 2019, the Rajapaksas came to power with a brute majority, a two-thirds majority. 3 years down the line, the Prime Minister has had to step down. The President is struggling to survive. They treated their country like a private limited company. Now the real stakeholders are pushing them out of power. The people are protesting and prevailing. And China, their friendly lender, is nowhere to be seen. I want to start this story with images of Sri Lanka. This is what it looks like today. Sri Lanka is under emergency and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa's resignation has not eased the tension. If anything, the situation looks worse now. A curfew has been clamped. Soldiers are out on the streets. There were clashes through the day today. At least 2 people have died, one of them a lawmaker from the ruling party. More than 100 others are injured. Will Mahinda Rajapaksa's exit ease the protest? Or will the protesters settle for nothing less than President Gotabaya's ouster? Tonight, we'll bring you the latest from a country that has turned into a powder keg. On Friday, we told you about a cabinet meeting. It had been called by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He wanted his elder brother and Prime Minister Mahinda to go. Gota refused to resign himself. He called for a unity government and for the exit of his brother. Mahinda's office denied the reports. A tense weekend followed. Staying in office looked increasingly difficult for him. Even his supporters sensed the inevitable. This morning, they gathered outside Temple Trees. Temple Trees is the official residence of the Sri Lankan Prime Minister. What were they there for? Apparently to ask Rajapaksa to not step down. Well, that's what some reports say. Others say that these people did not come on their own. They were brought in on buses from across Sri Lanka. Well, whatever the backstory, once they were at Temple Trees, they began chanting pro-Rajapaksa slogans. Now, you know who else has been camping outside the Prime Minister's residence? Protesters. They've been there for several weeks now. They've set up camps. Rajapaksa supporters stormed these camps today. Within minutes, clashes erupted. The situation got out of hand quickly. Rajapaksa supporters destroyed the protest site. They set fire to the tents. Leader of opposition Sajith Premadasa rushed to the site. With him were other politicians and trade union leaders. Reports say they were also attacked. A drone captured the moment when Premadasa was escorted away from the scene. There was absolute carnage after that. Angry protesters attacked several buses. We cannot confirm which camp they belonged to. Some of them went after the buses, the same buses that are said to have brought in those supporters. One of them was dumped in a pool of water nearby. Soon the violence spread across the country. At least 2 offices were set on fire. These belonged to different politicians and parties. Public property was destroyed. Government vehicles were set on fire. Members of the Rajapaksa family posted appeals for restraint on social media. But they were sharply criticized by all sides, by anti-government protesters, by critics, activists, journalists, everyone, including former cricketers of Sri Lanka. Then came the resignation. Mahinda Rajapaksa confirmed that he was indeed stepping down. This came 3 hours after his appeal for restraint. And he wasn't the only one to go. 2 ministers have quit with him. Health Minister Channa Jayasumana and Minister of Labour Vidura Vikramanayake. Our correspondent in Colombo, Dasuniya Thauda, was at Temple Trees, the Prime Minister's residence, when all of this happened.
Protesters continue to gather here outside the Temple Trees, which is the official residence of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, demanding for him to leave. Not only the Prime Minister, but also the Gotabaya Rajapaksa-led government to simply stand down. Now, protests today took a violent turn where, as of right now, over 130 individuals have been hospitalized following clashes, where a shootout has also taken place in Niptambua, where reports are now showing that one of those injured appear to be critical.
So what happens next? President Gotabaya Rajapaksa is yet to accept these resignations, but Mahinda says his resignation is effective immediately. Reports say the president has offered key posts to the opposition. Leader of opposition Sajith Premadasa was invited to become Prime Minister. Apparently he's refused. That's because their demands have been only half met. The opposition and the protesters want the president to go too. Going by their slogans, they're unlikely to accept today's concessions. A state of emergency, like I told you, was declared in Sri Lanka on Friday. Was President Rajapaksa then anticipating this violence? Why did the police force not rein in his supporters? They've been caught on camera wreaking havoc on the streets of Colombo today. Will action against them follow? These are questions that are being asked. Sri Lanka looks like a war zone. There are soldiers on the streets. The Rajapaksas once ruled Sri Lanka with an iron fist. They defied the rules. They ruled with impunity. Gotabaya Rajapaksa still occupies the president's chair, but he has lost the authority to rule. The Rajapaksa political empire is crumbling. The story of protesters taking down the powerful is not over. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.